It's a sweltering night in Memphis, sirens wail in the distance, and the streets crackle with tension. This is North Memphis, ground zero for one of the city's most explosive gang wars in recent memory. In the eye of the storm stands a young rapper known as EBG EJizzle, a man whose rise in the local drill scene has been matched only by the chaos swirling around him. Before we get started on this video, make sure you go check out my website that's in the description, where I post viral videos daily, and plus make sure you like the video and share it with someone to spread the violence awareness. His crew, EBG, is locked in a bitter feud with a web of rival gangs. What started as musical taunts and Instagram jabs has escalated into all-out urban warfare, with bodies dropping on both sides. This is the story of bullets and beats, betrayal and revenge, in a battle that has turned Memphis neighborhoods into a conflict zone. EBG EJizzle, born Eric Anderson, emerged from the hardscrabble streets of North Memphis and quickly made a name as a fearless voice of the local drill rap scene. EBG stands for his crew Everybody Gotta, or so the streets joke, but it also honors fallen friends. From the start, EJizzle's music was raw and unfiltered, narrating the gang life he lived. In late 2020, as Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty rocketed to fame with his hit Back in Blood, EJizzle audaciously released his own remix, a gritty diss track aimed squarely at Pooh. The bold move put EGG on a map, but it also lit the fuse of a deadly feud. Not one to back down, Pooh Shiesty responded with venom. He and EJizzle traded insults online, turning personal loss into public fodder. When EBGizzle was ambushed and shot in early 2021, Pooh Shiesty took to social media to mock his injured rival, spreading a rumor that EJizzle had been paralyzed in the attack. The truth was less dire. EBGizzle had been hit in the arm, not the spine, and he soon posted a defiant video from his hospital bed, wiggling his fingers to prove he could still move. The message was clear: EBGizzle was hurt, but unbroken, and the war was far from over.
And this was scary and wild. A shootout in the middle of the day, a 10-year-old child caught in the middle of it, and now we know how it started.
If EBGizzle is the public face of EBG, the conflict around him is deeply personal and deadly. EBG's beef with Pooh Shiesty isn't just rap theatrics, it's rooted in real street alliances and animosities. Pooh Shiesty and his chopper gang have connections to a clique called Double R, rich and ruthless, and together they've feuded with EBG in both music and blood. As the war of words raged, real shots were fired. In the neighborhoods of North Memphis, areas like Fraser and Uptown, EBG foot soldiers clashed with rivals from sets like 700 WDG, AOB, and 400 MG. Each acronym carries its own dread. Each has taken a life from the other. The cycle of retaliation seemed endless. One by one, EBG's young members began to fall, some in skirmishes with enemies, others in tragedies that underline just how vicious and unpredictable this world can be. The casualty list within EBG reads like a tragic roster of lost potential. First came Kah Mun, one of EBG's original members. In April 2020, just as the crew's conflict with other Memphis gangs was heating up, Kah Mun met an unforeseen end. In a cruel twist, this 19-year-old was shot to death, not by a rival on the streets, but allegedly by his own uncle during a domestic dispute. The killing stunned his friends, a reminder that death can come from any direction here. EBG mourned Kah Mun deeply. He had been a beloved little brother figure in the crew, known for a big grin and even bigger ambitions. In his honor, some in EBG began calling themselves the Moontide Gang, ensuring his nickname lives on. But there was little time to grieve. The war outside was only intensifying. By late 2020, gunfire became a grim soundtrack to EBG's life. In November of that year, Kah Mun, a 20-year-old EBG affiliate, was gunned down in a drive-by. Whispers on the street blamed a rival outfit called 400 MG, short for 400 Murder Gang, for Tah's death. It was a targeted hit, another young life snuffed out over turf and pride. The death of Kah Mun sent anger through EBG's ranks. He was a respected member known for slick getaway driving and a fearless attitude. Now his name became another rallying cry for revenge. As the new year dawned, 2021 brought more bloodshed. One of the gang's most charismatic members, known simply as Fatty, tried to make a quick come-up one April night. According to street reports, Fatty attempted a carjacking, a routine crime in a city where hustle is survival, but this time, the target fought back. The would-be victim pulled a gun and Fatty was shot dead on the spot. The irony was bitter. A hardened young gang member felled not by a longtime adversary, but by a civilian defending himself. Meanwhile, EBG EJizzle kept stoking the fires. By summer 2021, barely a few months after surviving his shooting, he was back on the grind and more defiant than ever. In online posts and new tracks, EJizzle taunted his enemies and even mocked Pooh Shiesty's inner circle. Pooh, for his part, was dealing with legal troubles of his own. By then, a nightclub shooting in Miami that would soon land him in federal prison.
They jacked Pooh Shiesty. They took his money. They jacked Pooh Shiesty. Pooh Shiesty shot. Pooh Shiesty let him. Oh shit. Pooh Shiesty let it off. They done jack his bitch ass in this bitch. Oh, look at everybody ready. Look at everybody tucking everybody ready.
But even behind bars, Pooh's presence loomed large. His crew continued to fight on his behalf in Memphis. In July 2021, the violence escalated to unprecedented levels. One of EBG's rising young shooters, Kah Mun, Key found himself in the crosshairs of a massive retaliation hit. Keon was just 17, babyface but already feared. He'd earned the nickname Da Devil for his wild, devil-may-care aggression on the streets. On a hot evening, July 20, 2021, Keon went to visit a friend on Air Street in Fraser. It turned out to be an orchestrated trap. As Keon stood outside, 4 cars suddenly pulled up, surrounding him. In an instant, gunmen unleashed a barrage of bullets, spitting fire from all sides. Over 100 shell casings littered the pavement by the time the cars peeled away. When the smoke cleared, Mun the Devil lay dead in the street. The ambush was merciless, a coordinated execution of one teenager by a small army of assailants. Neighbors described the scene as a war zone, reports noting the astounding number of rounds fired. Rumors pointed to a coalition of rival factions, a clique called 720 DG Block, possibly teaming with CBR, another street crew who allegedly orchestrated the hit as revenge. Only days before, Keon had been boasting about hitting one of their guys, and now they had hit back hard. The murder of Mooney Dad Devil was a devastating blow to EJizzle. He was the younger cousin of an OG in the set, practically family to EJizzle. At the funeral, EJ members dressed in their signature green bandanas wept openly as they carried Keon's casket. His death was proof that this war had spiraled beyond control. No one, not even a 17-year-old, was off limits. Tit for tat, the violence rolled on. EBG wasn't going to just take these losses. If their enemies wanted war, they would get it. Retaliation hit the streets in waves. Over the next year, Memphis saw a string of shootings that were like deadly conversations between warring ghosts. In February 2022, EBG lost Block Spinner Tay, another tight-knit member known for his flashy style on social media. He was shot to death on a cold night, and though the case officially went unsolved, everyone suspected the hands of 700 WDG once again. That same winter, EBG's rivals were bleeding too. A high-ranking member of Rich and Ruthless was reportedly killed in a South Memphis shootout, and word on the streets claimed EBGizzle himself pulled the trigger. Whether or not EJizzle was truly responsible, the belief that he was only made him more infamous in the eyes of foes. By the spring of 2022, local blogs were dubbing EBG the most hated gang in the city, second only to Double R, and it wasn't hard to see why. EBG had become synonymous with fearless violence. Young men who would shoot it out anywhere, anytime. The tension climaxed in June 2022, a month that would go down in Memphis gang lore as particularly bloody. In a single week, EBG saw 2 of his prominent members fatally gunned down, and the shockwaves were felt citywide. The first was Rob Muni, a close friend of EJizzle and a rapper in his own right. Rob Muni, born Terrence D. Burke, was 22, known for his energetic flows and the camaraderie he shared with EJizzle on tracks like their Evil Twins duet. On the night of June 12, 2022, Rob Muni was inside a North Memphis convenience store when a gunman walked up and opened fire. Customers dove for cover as shots rang out by the soda coolers. Rob Muni was hit multiple times before the shooter fled. He collapsed and died on the store floor, his blood mixing with spilled soda. Memphis police arrived to find a chaotic crime scene and a crowd already gathering. Rob Muni's murder set off an uproar on social media. Ops enemies were already posting mocking comments and lyrics about his demise within hours. EBG in turn seethed with grief and rage. This killing felt personal. Rye had been a beloved brother figure in the gang. His real name, Terrence, rarely got used to everyone in EBG. He was just Rye, the life of the party. They buried him in a sea of green flags and custom t-shirts emblazoned with his rap moniker. Soon after, investigators announced they'd solved this case. A shooter from a rival AOB set, a man nicknamed Big Local, was arrested and charged with Rye's murder. AOB, short for All Out Brotherhood, is itself allied with some North Memphis Crip sets, proving how entangled this war had become. For EBG, the rest was cold comfort. Nothing could bring Ramyani back, and heartbreakingly, the gang didn't even have time to recover from his loss before the next tragedy struck. Only 4 days later, on June 16, 2022, gunfire erupted again, this time in the heart of downtown Memphis at dawn. Antavius Bluford, aka EBG Cheddar, aged 21, was driving along Danny Thomas Boulevard when bullets from a moving car ripped into him. Wounded and losing control, Cheddar's vehicle careened into an intersection and crashed near Madison Avenue. By the time first responders reached the wreck, they found Cheddar slumped over the wheel with a fatal gunshot wound. Medics tried to revive him, but he was already gone. Another young EBG member killed in cold blood. The police initially weren't even sure where Cheddar had been shot. His car was riddled with holes, but the shooting may have started blocks away before he crashed. To the public, he was just another homicide statistic that hot summer week. But to those who knew him, Cheddar's death was huge. He was a flashy, outgoing guy with a mischievous streak, nicknamed Jeremy Lin because of a slight resemblance to the basketball player, though in the streets, they simply called him Cheddar for getting money. Just days before Cheddar had been joking around on Instagram Live, now his name was being added to the growing list of EBG martyrs. His killing was widely believed to be a hit by the rich and ruthless gang, striking back after losing some of their own. In fact, that same day, a rapper affiliated with Rich and Ruthless released a taunting track called Dead Guys, seemingly celebrating Cheddar's demise, a cruel bit of scorekeeping in his war. EBG members vowed unholy revenge for Ramyani and Cheddar. Two brothers murdered in 1 week. If their enemies thought EBG would fold, they were mistaken. By now, Memphis authorities were scrambling to contain the violence, but the street code of vengeance was in full swing, and each death only demanded another. In August 2022, a particularly brazen incident proved just how far this cycle of payback had gone. On a muggy night, a group of 3 shooters armed with assault rifles ambushed 24-year-old Dwayne Pooh Curry Jones, a reputed member of the SVM gang allied with Rich and Ruthless, outside a Motel 6 on Sycamore View Road. The gunmen sprayed Curry with bullets, killing him on the spot in a storm of shattered glass and concrete chips. What really caught everyone's attention was the message the attackers sent. One of the shooters brazenly wore a t-shirt that read "Long Live Fatty, EBG" across the front. It was a startling sight. The enemy literally advertising EBG slaying Fatty while carrying out a hit. To the underworld, that shirt spoke volumes. It suggested Pooh Curry's murder was payback for Fatty, who had been killed the previous year. It was a taunt, a tribute, and a declaration of allegiance all in one. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. Outraged by his friend Curry's slaying, an SVM affiliate by the name of Easy Kelly, aka Zeke, decided to exact revenge in the most terrifying way imaginable. On September 7, 2022, Zeke Kelly allegedly embarked on a shooting rampage across Memphis, live streaming parts of it on Facebook as he drove around, firing at strangers. By the time he was caught, Kelly had allegedly killed 4 people and wounded 3 others at random in a night of terror, plunging the entire city into panic. The police manhunt and citywide lockdown that ensued were national news, and at the twisted heart of it, some said, was that "Long Live Fatty" shirt, a sign of how one gang murder can spark a wildfire of violence. The Memphis police director herself noted the link. Zeke's fury traced back to Pooh Curry's death, which traced back to EBG's feud. It was a gruesome illustration of the domino effect in these beefs, where one killing begets another in an endless loop. Even as Memphis reeled from the spree, the war between EBG and his rivals persisted. By 2023, EBGizzle, the face of the crew, was still standing and still defiant, though now he was fighting legal battles on top of street ones. In September 2022, EJizzle, Eric Anderson, had been arrested on a first-degree murder charge stemming from a 2020 incident. It shocked some fans to learn the 22-year-old rapper had allegedly been involved in a killing even before his rap beef with Pooh Shiesty. EJizzle himself later claimed the case was dropped when a witness refused to testify, but trouble caught up again. In 2023, he was reportedly sentenced to 20 years in prison on an attempted murder conviction, effectively taking the last man standing of EJizzle off the streets. For the first time in years, EJizzle was absent from the front lines of the feud he had helped ignite. Yet even with his leader behind bars, EBG's saga was not over. The gang's reputation for retaliation ensured that. One of the most haunting chapters of EBG's story came at the end of 2022. Cedric Perry, a 19-year-old considered the next up in EBG's rap ranks, simply vanished one December day. Lil Sid was a known shooter for EBG and had just started putting out music alongside EJizzle. When he went missing on December 22, 2022, many feared the worst. His family pleaded for help finding him, but the streets stayed silent. Days turned into weeks, and a dark cloud hung over the gang. Was Sid on the run, hiding out, or had something terrible happen? Chilling rumors swirled that he had been kidnapped by a set of rivals as retaliation for a previous hit. There were even lurid tales whispered that Sid might have been tortured on video, though nothing concrete surfaced. For nearly 2 months, his disappearance remained a mystery. Then, on a cold day in February 2023, the mystery gave way to horror. Lil Sid's body was discovered in a lake on the city's outskirts. He was long dead, decomposed beyond easy recognition, but dental records confirmed it was him. Sid had been murdered and dumped like so much trash. The news hit like a gut punch to EBG and to Sid's family. They finally had confirmation of what they dreaded, but no closure on how or why. Police did not release details of his cause of death publicly, sparking even more speculation. On the streets, most believed it was an execution by enemies, payback of the cruelest kind. Sid's death was a sobering reminder that in this brutal war, getting caught slipping could mean a fate worse than death. EBG held a memorial ride out for him, dozens of dirt bikes, four-wheelers, and cars screeching through his neighborhood, engines revving in anger and grief. Long Live Said Church joined the growing collection of memorial tees worn by the crew. By this point, the toll of the war was staggering. EBG had lost a string of brothers: Lil Moon, Tay Moonay, Fatty, Moonay Da Devil, Blue Spanatea, Red Moonay, Cheddar, Lou Said. 8 young men in roughly 3 years, each murder carrying its own tale of vengeance. On the opposing side, numerous rivals had also been slain, often in direct response. For example, not long after EBG Cheddar's killing, an EBG shooter named Justin Swerve Blue allegedly ran down and assassinated a 700 WDG member in broad daylight as get back for an earlier slaying. The ledger of revenge just kept growing. Every few weeks seemed to bring another shooting, another funeral, another set of initials etched onto a tombstone or sprayed on a wall. Memphis media struggled to keep up with the carnage, often reporting unrelated shootings that the streets knew were very much part of the same war. Through it all, what started as rap beef intertwined with gang codes had become something of a local legend. People swapped tales on Reddit threads and YouTube videos about the deadly war in Memphis, Pooh Shiesty vs EBG EJizzle. Outsiders watched those videos in disbelief. It sounds almost too crazy, like a movie plot or rising rap star beefs with the neighborhood crew. Diss tracks lead to actual shootouts. Friends get kidnapped and killed. Someone even goes on a citywide rampage possibly because of it. But in Memphis, this is real life. As one commentator put it soberly online, there's only 2 ways out when living that kind of life: dead or in jail. EBG's saga tragically proves the point. By 2025, most of the young men in this story are either 6 feet under or behind bars. Pooh Shiesty sits in federal prison on unrelated charges. EBG EJizzle will be in Tennessee State Prison until he's in his 40s. And so many of their comrades will never see another sunrise. Yet on the very streets where they once roamed, the cycle persists. New kids crop up, repping EBG or Double R or some other clique, chasing the same deadly clout. They ride past murals of fallen members like Ramuni and Cheddar. In the end, the story of EBGizzle and his gang is a cautionary tale of how quickly a cycle of vengeance can spiral out of control. It started with some diss lyrics in a song and spiraled into a nightmare of funerals and prison sentences. This is the kind of war where no one really wins. Mothers on both sides have wept over caskets. Young children in North Memphis have had to learn the sound of gunshots before the alphabet, and an entire community bears the scars of a feud that raged through its streets like a wildfire.